Hello, my name is Joan Snyder, Administrative Vice President of the League of Women Voters of the Flint area. With partners Community First Incorporated and Flint Beat, we share a purpose to educate, empower, and engage local voters. We're happy to bring you a virtual community forum today to help you decide which candidate for county commissioner will get your vote. All elected officials make important decisions about how your tax dollars are spent, so knowing about the candidates is important. All candidates for the offices were contacted. Candidates not participating today either chose not to or were unavailable. We hope you'll listen carefully to those participating today and check out vote411.org for written responses to any that were unable to participate today. All participants were informed that they would need to comply with certain rules, such as refraining from comments about opponents and only taking this opportunity to tell voters about their own qualifications, priorities, and outlook. All candidates are asked the same questions and all have the same time to respond. Thank you, and we look forward to an informative discussion.
All right, so we'll hand it to Joan to ask our just opening question here.
Carol.
All right, so what we'd like to do is provide each candidate 2 minutes for opening remarks. Dale, we'll let you go ahead and begin.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you to Communities First, the League of Women Voters, and Flint Beat for hosting Mr. Kramer and me today. We are running for the 8th District County Commission seat. I am Dale Wayhill, your incumbent county commissioner, just finishing my first 2-year term, running for what will now be a 4-year term should I succeed on election day. The legislature changed it from 2 to 4 years during the past little while, and so county commissioners are now all 4-year terms. I've been vice chair of the county commission in my first year. Now I'm the government operations chair. In addition to being a county commissioner, which is a part-time position, I'm also the associate vice president for institutional advancement at Mott Community College. Been associated with MCC for 27 years now, having worked as an adjunct instructor in political science for quite a while. And then I was a full-time executive dean and now the associate vice president. A lot of involvement in the community, especially at a county-wide level. I was a nonprofit CEO at an organization called Resource Genesee for quite some time. Presently, I'm on the Flint Institute of Arts Board, the Foundation for Flint Community Schools Board of Directors, and historically, I've been members of Big Brothers Big Sisters Board and also the Salvation Army. My focus during my first year and a half or year and 3/4 on the county commission, senior issues, infrastructure issues with county buildings, county properties, distributing ARPA money to projects that can drive economic development, and also focusing on veterans. One of the things that we were able to do just recently was steal the Veterans Resource Rally from the 9th District, Davison, and pull it over into Flushing. So always looking out for my district, but also the county as a whole. Happy to be with you today and happy to be here with Dennis Kramer.
All right, Mr. Kramer, same question to you, just 2 minutes to introduce yourself in an opening statement.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, everyone involved, all the team, for hosting this event. My name is Dennis Kramer. I am currently sitting on Swartz Creek, the city of Swartz Creek City Council, where I've been on that council for going on 8 years. I come from a military background. I spent 20 years in the U.S. Navy, retired with honors, and very active volunteer here in the Swartz Creek community. And a recent accomplishment, and you folks at Community First would can relate to this. Our Downtown Development Authority recently secured or appropriated, will be appropriating funds to save the old historic church off Morris Road in our city. We're really pleased and excited about that, getting that old church refurbished. I sit on various boards, Planning Commission, Sports Creek Historical Society, many volunteer opportunities, including the Friends of the Perkins Library, just name a few. And at that, I'll leave it at that. I'm approaching 2 minutes. Got to be approaching 2 minutes.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So our next question, and we'll start this one with Mr. Kramer. Describe your qualifications and experience for this office and explain a bit your reasons for running. How would you be an asset in this position?
Yes, I would be an asset to the county commissioner based on my experience on city council as far as approving budgets, talking to local leaders, going to, let's for instance, touring a recycling facility, hands-on. All right, examples like that. Having worked on the planning commission out here in Swartz Creek, and my involvement with the Downtown Development Authority, attending the various meetings in our chambers. And I'd like to add, I was Citizen of the Year in 2020 out here in Swartz Creek.
There you go. Well, thank you so much. Dale, same question. Describe your qualifications and experience for this office and explain your reasons for running. How would you be an asset in this position?
Sure. I'll start with the reasons first. So, big picture reason, I'm a political scientist. I used to teach poli-sci at Mott. That is where my bachelor's and master's are in. That is my passion, American government, our democracy. I think that our democracy is under great strain. I don't think it's not a news flash to anyone here or that will be listening to this eventually. I believe in good government, and I think I'm a guy who studies issues, who thinks about things, who asks good questions. I have most of the time an even temperament and like to get along and collaborate with colleagues and others. I think very rarely am I not able to work with someone else. It has to be a really difficult situation for that to occur. So I like to bring people together. I like to solve problems. And I think I've done that. So democracy is the big picture piece of it, but at a very practical level, I've done a lot with economic development, ARPA money to projects in Mundy and Gaines Township, up in Clio, a water project. We got some ARPA dollars over to the Burston Fieldhouse renovation project. So it's sort of economic and human development where I've tried to direct some of the county's available dollars that are not part of our regular budget. One other point of pride would be the senior centers. There's 16 of them. They get an annual allocation from the senior millage, but we were also able to put, through some leadership from me and Commissioner Cousineau, $100,000 extra into each senior center, including the ones in the district I represent, Flushing, Swartz Creek, Flint Township, to do important repairs that would otherwise not be done. So getting the job done and trying to improve our democracy here in Genesee County.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Wayhill, many residents don't understand county government. How would you explain the county's primary responsibilities and services, and what will be your strategy for effectively communicating with constituents?
You are not kidding. So when I say I'm on the county commission, some folks think it's a one-person job. So I start by saying it's a bit like a city council, but for the entire county. So if you think of your local city or your local township where you've got a board or a council, multi-member, everyone, it's either at large or there's a district model. We happen to have districts in Genesee County, and the issues that we tackle are sort of fundamental bread and butter issues. So public health is one, courts and criminal justice, the sheriff's department and the budget that we approve for that. Running the elections through the clerk and giving the clerk appropriations so that we can have a safe, honest, and fair election result when we do those every couple of years. So, animal shelter, the Genesee County Animal Shelter, juvenile justice is another piece of it. that falls under the county. We just opened a brand new multi-million-dollar juvenile justice center out in Pasadena Avenue in my district, the 8th, and had a lovely ceremony dedicating it. Much improved over the previous facility that wasn't fit for humans and probably some animals as well. So investing in infrastructure, roads, bridges, those kinds of things, but at a county level. So similar to what a city or township board would do, but for the county as a whole.
Thank you. And Mr. Kramer, same question. Many residents don't understand county government. How would you explain the county's primary responsibilities and services? What will be your strategy for effectively communicating with constituents?
Okay, I'll tell you right now that, well, thank you for the question. I'll tell you right now, what I would do at the county level would be essentially the same that I'm doing at the local level out here in Swartz Creek, but it would be through Swartz Creek, Clayton, Flint Township, City of Flushing, and Flushing Township. Just a broader area of making sure accountability for funds. And specifically, I would have a series of town halls throughout the district to get the people to weigh in, to get a feel for what they want to see done with their own tax money, and to assure them on transparency, and to hear directly from them their concerns and complaints and praises, hopefully, and praises going down the road in the future.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. So our next question is a little bit about how to manage priorities across the county within your district. Commissioners are elected from separate districts, but are responsible for decisions that affect the entire county. In what ways do priorities of your district's constituents differ with countywide issues? In what ways do they overlap? And when those priorities differ, what's your process for making decisions? And we'll start that question with Mr. Kramer.
Can I get the question again, please?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I know it's a bit of a long one. Commissioners are elected from separate districts, but are also responsible for decisions that affect the entire county. In what ways do priorities of your district's constituents differ with countywide issues? And in what ways do they overlap? And when priorities do differ, what's your process for making decisions?
I would have to talk to the people in the various townships to get a better feel. To be quite honest, I don't have the depth of understanding like Mr. Wayhill does, my opponent. He has more depth in understanding of specifically the people of Clayton Township, specifically the people of Flushing, all right? Specifically the people in Flushing, Clayton, and Flint Township. So I would have to talk to the people in depth to get a feel of their concerns as opposed to the other districts, 9th, 6th, 3rd, 4th, and so on. I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'll repeat it again for Mr. Wayhill. Commissioners are elected from separate districts, but also are responsible for decisions that affect the entire county. In what ways do priorities of your district's constituents differ with countywide issues? In what ways do they overlap? And when those priorities differ, what's your process for making decisions?
Okay, so let me start with communications. I've been doing not town halls, but coffees at the Flushing Senior Center quarterly, probably done 7 of those since the beginning of last year, gathering information, letting them share their ideas about what the city of Flushing needs, that community plus the 8th district. Also did the similar things in Swartz Creek and then Flint Township. I'll give you an example. So we had to make some tough decisions about infrastructure, dollars being spent, and we adopted a capital improvement plan for all the buildings in the county that county government owns. Part of that was saving money on reducing our footprint out county with courthouses. I went and saw Judge Goggins, who's the district judge in my district, and went to his court in Flushing and said, this is what we're thinking about doing. Would you weigh in on that? Give me your opinion. Tell me what the pitfalls would be. Is there anything that's in this plan that would prevent you from dispensing justice? Because I certainly wouldn't want to do that. He said, well, make sure you look at parking, make sure you look at letting people know. Maybe we can increase electronic Zoom with the courts to make it more convenient. So I'll tell you that there are some people in Flushing that didn't agree with my decision. Ultimately, I made it, I think, on behalf of the county as a whole to save $10 million so that we could put those into buildings like the jail, like the circuit court, other buildings that we've got to have a jail. We can't not have a jail. So we have to make priorities like that. Those are countywide. But, the people of the community that I represent, I'll say Flushing citizens, they voted for me in the primary after my opponent ran on the court issue, and I won in every single precinct in the city of Flushing and in Flushing Township. So I think that I conveyed it through those mechanisms that I mentioned, the quarterly coffees and lunches with the seniors and others. So it's a balance. You're not always going to make everyone happy, but you just try to do the right thing in the end.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So, Mr. Wayhill, does the county board have a responsibility to develop relationships with other public entities, such as local cities, universities, libraries, and schools? And in what way does that currently happen? And do you think there are better ways to develop those relationships?
So you asked about the county board, and so what I take the question to mean is the 9-member board and how we interact with those entities. I'll address it that way, but I'll also talk about me as an individual commissioner. So libraries and schools, I obviously have a wonderful relationship with Mott Community College, given where I sit and what my career has been in the community. And I've had the good fortune of being on a lot of nonprofit boards, but also running a nonprofit. So personally, I have connections there. And then the district library, in terms of the relationship with the full county Board of Commissioners, we put people on the district library board, Genesee District Library. We just had the district library board director in who gave his annual report on how they're doing. And so that's one connection that we have. Can we improve upon that once a year visit where he talks about it? Yeah, for sure. But I want you to know that I also individually have visits with people. Like I sat down with 2 of the folks from the Convention and Visitors Bureau under the Flint and Genesee group for dinner, and we talked about the contract that we have with them to promote tourism in the county. So I guess all of that is to say that I probably do more as an individual to build relationships. I mentioned that I like collaboration and problem solving. I do a lot of that over coffee, dinner, Zooms, one-on-ones. I do think the board as a whole could probably do more of that. I'll say that we had a bit of a fractious time with the 911 consortium, which is made up of local elected officials, and they put a request into us and thought we should just approve it without asking any questions. So when we asked questions, they got defensive, and that led to a couple months of back and forth. And finally, we resolved the issue and put something on the ballot that they wanted. But I do think we could be more proactive as a full body to have those discussions and build the relationships.
Thank you. And Mr. Kramer, does the county board have a responsibility to develop relationships with other public entities such as local cities, universities, libraries, and schools? In what ways does that currently happen? And do you think there are better ways to develop those relationships?
There's always better ways to develop those relationships. It's called effective communication. The answer is definitely yes, because the more flows of communication we got going on within the local government and the county government, the better things are going to flow and happen. I'll give you a couple to visit surrounding municipalities by our Genesee County commissioners, I think is crucial. That would be one way. If elected, I would practice to visit their surrounding municipalities. I have been active with Genesee Health Plan in the past as a former spokesman for that program in 2018, I think it was. So yes, to answer your question, outreach is very important. It's crucial. And I would like to thank my opponent for such a warm reception and welcome at a recent veterans rally in Flushing. We had a great time to honor all the veterans here in the county, and I have to add that it was refreshing for people to see we being civil to each other in a public setting. All right. And I did talk to the folks at the 67th Court in Fenton, and they gave me their take on what they hope and what is really going on in the county. Hope I answered your question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the final question, Mr. Whaley, I'd like to address this to you first, please. In closing, is there anything else you would like voters in your district to know about your candidacy?
Well, I would say that I think that one of the added values I bring is just the depth of my experience in Genesee County, from the nonprofit sector to public education, higher education. I have also been an elected official in the city of Flint when I was still living in the city. I was on the city council from 2009 to 13, was vice president of the city council for 3 out of those 4 years, and developed a lot of great relationships with not just city officials, but others throughout the county in that. And something I haven't been really focused on in these questions, but I do a fair amount of constituent service. And these are constituents who call to say there's water running down my street, there's a crack in the middle of Tequamanon Trail out in Flushing Township. So I drive out to Tequamanon Trail and talk to the homeowner, and then I get with the road commission. It frequently takes longer to solve these problems than I would hope, but at least they found me, and at least I was able to put in a good word. Just last week, probably one of the funnier or more odd requests, Larry Ford, who used to run the Chamber of Commerce, called me as a constituent, said there was a deer carcass at Elms and Beecher, and the road commission was not picking it up in a timely fashion. So I text the head of the road commission, Randy De La Posta. He says, we will go out and get that deer carcass. So the thing that I do quite frequently is constituent service. Not as much on the commission, but I had 3,500 lines on a spreadsheet from when I was on Flint City Council, taking care of anything under the sun. And it's about quality of life for people, and I will continue to do that if I'm reelected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Same question for you, Mr. Kramer. In closing, is there anything else you would like voters of your district to know about your candidacy?
Yes, yes, absolutely. First of all, I would start my closing statement by saying I have to get to know you better, the voters of the 8th District. I have to get to know you better. I have failed to do that. I'm working on it. All right. Second thing is based on my experience out in Swartz Creek, I think infrastructure is key. That's how we're turning things around out here in Swartz Creek, is rebuilding the infrastructure. That is key. That has to happen. When that happens, communities improve. Yeah, thanks. And I was also a committee member of the Save Our Streets project out here in Swartz Creek in 2016. The treasurer of that fine committee. And another thing, bringing a lot of patriotism when I run for any office. And I'm wishing nothing but the best for my opponent, and I hope to work with him in the future to go door to door and talk to some people. Okay?
Likewise.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's go together. We'll make the national news.
Yeah, man, I'm all about that. All about that. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, thank you for joining us today. As a reminder, Election Day is November 5th, 2024. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can also vote by absentee ballot currently, or you can vote early in person for at least 9 days before Election Day. If you'd like to know more about your voting options, head to michigan.gov/vote. Exercise your right to vote and be a part of your community.